I walk through the shadow of death left to fear. This is a journey through the halls of hell.
What is good, people? I am BA. Unfortunately, there'll be no reactions this week, but instead of leaving you guys hanging, I thought I'd fill that space with 2 movie reviews. I've watched a couple good films recently, and the first one I wanted to talk about is Late Night with the Devil. I believe this is a Shudder exclusive. I don't know if there's any way you can watch this other than having Shudder, but that's how I checked it out, so I don't know if there's other ways, but if you look on digital streaming services, maybe you'll find your own way to watch this. I was instantly interested in this movie by the premise. Big late night talk shows that stand the test of time are not really a thing in the UK. We have attempted it, but it's certainly not a staple of culture like it is over in America. And this film takes place during a late night talk show, live. And it's a Halloween special, so the host of the talk show has 3 separate guests on which are all related in some way to the supernatural. And I think to begin with, just as a premise, that's a brilliant setup for a horror movie. It gives it a unique quality from the very beginning that you haven't really seen before. Now, there will be mild spoilers for the first segment, but then I won't have any big spoilers for the 2 following segments. So just a heads up, I might be spoiling the first 20 or 25 minutes for you. But the first guest is a man who claims he can communicate with the dead, and as we watch it, you can tell that he is a fraud. He's doing the classic techniques that you see all cold readers do in attempts to get hits and act as if they are actually in communication with a dead person. So far so good, but then things start to get strange by the end of his segment, and maybe what he started to do as false ends up being a bit less false than even he believed. The second guest on is a skeptic who debunks all these people and doesn't believe in any of it. And I specifically loved this segment because the skeptic character is clearly based on a man called James Randi, who I'm a big fan of. He was a lifelong magician, and magicians are some of the hardest people to trick, either verbally or visually, with bullshit. They are trained to see through it. They're trained to see the hustle behind it all because that's their craft. So even though his job was a magician, his side project was to use the skill set he had attained through studying magic to call out the bullshit from people who use similar techniques but in fields that are not to entertain. They are there to exploit, such as cold reading. So yeah, I really loved the middle segment just because the character was clearly based on someone who in real life I have so much respect for. And then we get to the final segment, which is a girl who claims to be possessed. And also I want to point out, I usually hate CGI effects, but there are moments in the final segment which use CGI, but because the effects used are so unique looking, I really actually liked how they implemented them in the movie. And I'd say this movie is almost teetering on the edge of being a classic, and the one thing that let it down for me was there's a reveal in the last 5 minutes, and they decide to explain the reveal through a series of quick cut images and a strange sequence, and I feel like that would have worked better if that information was slowly revealed verbally live on air by the third guest. That might not make sense if you haven't seen the movie, but if you go and watch the movie, then go back and listen to what I just said there, you might understand what I'm trying to convey. But yeah, the one thing that let it down for me was the final segment when the final reveal was done visually, and it wasn't confusing. I understood what they were trying to get across, but I just feel like it wasn't as impactful as it could have been due to the way they decided to edit it. So I don't know, it was such a great movie up until that point, but even thinking about it now, and it's been a few weeks since I've watched it, that still takes a half a star, maybe even a star away from it for me, because an ending is so important to a movie, and I feel like it just stumbled at the very last hurdle. But other than that, it's a great little horror movie, made on a small budget, and if you like your horror, and especially in a unique setting, I highly recommend you check out this film. So yeah, that is my review of Late Night with the Devil. We will be back with our normal reactions next week, and until next time, I have been BA. Peace.